Welcome to United Tax Training. We are going to go over Don Johnson. He is our first test problem. Everyone should have received this email with your United Tax 2012-2013 online link and client ID. To set that up, you're just going to take the link here and you're going to cut and paste that into Internet Explorer. Then you'll take the second link here, which is 2012, cut and paste that into Internet Explorer. We'll be working out of the 2012 program with our training problems. Then, of course, your username is your first initial, last name capitalized, and 14 for the tax year that we're in. And your password will be the same. I already changed this one, and it'll bring you to the screen right here. So as I said, everyone should have received this email already, and if you follow instructions on this email, it will log you into your TW Online TaxWise screen, which is here. Alright, great. From here, what we can do is several things. Of course, start a new return, open returns, find out about returns, and print checks. We can also go back and do prior year returns. We have 09, 2010, 2011. There's a few other ideas as well that's here, and you can browse through at your own time and at your own pace. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do Don Johnson's return. So the first thing you want to do is click on New Return. Then it's going to prompt you to put the social in there twice, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So you should also have received this training manual. If you have not, just contact us and we will send you the training manual. Class participation, be on time, be prepared, be ready, be in place. And we did have some class times. However, you can do all of this at your own pace. A few things that we'll be learning in the course is filing statuses. There are 5 of those. Dependents and exemptions, itemized and standard deduction, tax credit, schedules, bank products, pricing, tax returns, and I have some important contact numbers there, as well as paperwork requirements. And we have 20 homework assignments. However, I broke it down to 10, which is going to cover pretty much all types of tax situations, from low income to high income to business owners. That's a Schedule C. 1099s. There's several types of 1099s. You have 1099 miscellaneous. You have unemployment, which comes on 1099. So these 10 test problems will take you through all of those ideas. Now, as we go through, at the bottom of your training manual, you have a glossary. So if you have, just read through the glossary. It's well worth your time to go through and get this information. To be a tax preparer, you don't need a degree. You don't need any type of certification. This is something that you can learn in 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm telling you, it'll really change your lifestyle. And we'll go ahead and go up to Don Johnson's return. Okay, here we are, Don Johnson. So what we want to do is we're going to key his information into the tax return. So we're going to take his social here. We're going to copy it, and we're going to go ahead and paste that right here in this tax return. Now what you want to do is change the last 2 numbers That's going to make it unique because we have other people keying in the same tax return. So you're going to change the last two numbers, and you can just use your social, the last two of your social, and that's going to bring us to the main information sheet. The main information sheet is 80% of the tax return. This is where you're going to do most of your entries. Okay, so I'll just flick here. So we got Don Johnson, we're going to follow the red fields. It's going to show us where there's quite a few lines on this form. However, it's going to point out to where we need to fill out the information. 42 Warner Street, 376. And once we put the zip code in there, the city and state popped up automatically. His birth date, 10/20/73. When I first learned this program, I was like, this is amazing. I didn't know that they had programs that generated, dollar amounts, and you can actually get paid out of it. If you don't know the occupation, just go ahead and put clerk there. This is all they're doing when you get your taxes prepared. It's not a major science that go into it. They're just keying your information in. Okay, now we're down here to filing statuses. There are 5 filing status: single, married filing jointly, married filing separately, head of household, and qualifying widower. Now for this tax return, Don Johnson, he doesn't have any dependents, so you will see on your test problems whether they have a dependent or not right in this area. However, he does not, so that's going to make him single. Click on single there, then we scroll down, look for our next red field. If he did have a dependent, that dependent information will go right here. First name, last name, date of birth, social, relationship, months in home. The code is number 1, which would be your child who lives with you. There's a few others. We won't go into that now. DC stands for dependent care. EIC, earned income credit. CTC, child tax credit. All of those definitions are down at the bottom, and we'll go into those in later returns. Our next red field is the state information. We will be preparing the state return as well as the federal return. Now, if you're not preparing the state return, you just click here. In this case, we will. He's from the state of Georgia. We're going to put GA right there. Then we hit tab. And if you noticed over here in the forms tree, these forms just popped up when I added that Georgia. Okay, the type of service that he would like to receive is going to be an e-file. So we're going to select e-file from here. Then as we go further down on the form, we're looking for our next red field. The taxpayer's PIN. That is always the last 5 digits of the client's social. So we'll just go here, 89865. It's going to be 89899, because I had changed that to make it unique. Then we're going to go ahead and put today's date in, which is 12/30/2013. It asks the question here, I authorize. Well, it makes the statement, I authorize. The firm name will pop up, which is United Tax Associates. To enter this PIN as my signature on my tax year 2012 electronically filed income tax return. And we're almost done here. Third party designee. Do you want to allow another person to discuss this return with the IRS? And we'll say yes, and that is you. You. tax preparer. Your name will go there, and your telephone number, whatever that is, and the last 5 of your social, right there. In some cases, we have to call to follow up with the IRS, and this allows you to do that without the taxpayer actually being on the phone. That's it. That's the main information sheet. And as I shared, this main information sheet is 80% of the tax return. First name, last name, mailing address, date of birth, occupation, are you excluding Puerto Rico income, filing status, the state that the person's in, type of return, e-file. Now, if this individual had a bank account, we will put the bank account information right here. That way the refund is routed to their bank account. We'll get to that in later returns as well. The taxpayer's PIN, then third party designee. Once the main information sheet is done, we're going to add a W-2. So we go right over here in the forms tree and click on add, type in W-2, and you see here that there's several types of W-2s. You have a W-2 wages and tax statement, W-2G certain gambling winnings, W-2GU Guam wages and tax statement, W-2 PR Puerto Rico wages and tax statement. We're going to go with one. We're going to check here, taxpayer. This W-2 statement is for the taxpayer. And we're going to check this first red box. Check if this is the taxpayer's address shown on W-2. Okay, so we hadn't got to anything that was complicated yet, and we're almost done with this return. Once we key this information in for this W-2, it's going to calculate a return. So we're going to go back to our training manual, and we see here that he works for American Textile Corporation, and here is the employer identification number. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy it, and I'm going to put it here, Control V, and hit Tab. All the information for the company popped up. Sometimes you'll have to key it in. Now it prompts us for the wages, tips, and etc. So we're going to put $12,000 in for the wages. And if you notice here, once I hit Tab, it actually calculated that he owes $76. Most people are in the 10% tax bracket. So on $12,000, he will be taxed $1,200. And once I put that $1,200 in there, it calculated a refund of $1,124. So it's that simple to do a tax return. You're just keying the information in. Now we're going to do the state portion of it, which is here. Line 15, we put the state there, which is Georgia, GA. Hit Tab. Tab. And once we get to line 17, and we're going to put $800 there for this taxes withheld. Now what we didn't see is that a refund for the state calculated. In order to see that on the Georgia form, you go to the Georgia go to your forms tree, Georgia 500, page 3, click on it, and right here, overpayment 24, line 24, $575. You can see it right as soon as you get to the page. However, if you scroll down a little bit further on line 36, amount to be refunded, there it is officially, $575. Takes about 5-10 minutes to key this information in. This client has a return of $1,699 coming back. You can easily make $150, $200 doing something like this for a single individual. Okay, once this is done, in order to get the return ready to be e-filed, we have to go through each form that's red and turn them green. We're going to start with the 1040 page 1. We're not starting from the main information sheet because this form right here, once we fill this out, it's going to make this one green, the main information. So we're looking for our red fields. We get down here. Alright, it asks the question, did you itemize deductions last year and receive a state or local tax refunds, credits, or offsets? Most of the time that's no. And that's the only thing we need to check on that form. I'll go back, it didn't take. So we check and hit tab. Then we go to our next form. Now as you see, this 1040 page 2 over here in our forms tree is now green. There's a few questions that we need to answer on this schedule EIC. And the first one is, does the taxpayer and the taxpayer's spouse, if filing jointly, have a social security number that allows him or her to work or is valid for EIC purposes? We're going to check yes. Tab. Next question, was the taxpayer a non-resident alien for any part of the year? We're going to hit no there. The next question, number 6, could the taxpayer or the taxpayer's spouse, if filing jointly, be a qualifying child of another person? We're going to hit no. In my years of doing it, I already know once I get to this form, 1, 2, 3, right down the line. You won't have to read it after you get familiar with it. If there were children on the return, they will pop up here and we will have to answer these questions. However, they're not, so we're just going to go to our next red field. And then it asks the question here, if you took EIC on your 2011 income tax return, was the EIC reduced or disallowed for any reason other than a math or clerical error? If you did not take EIC on your 2011 tax return, check no. We're going to hit no there. Scroll down further. One more question. Was the taxpayer's main home and the main home of the taxpayer's spouse, if filing jointly, in the United States for more than half of the year? Then we'll go right there and we'll hit yes. Now, Schedule EIC is green. Now we're on the W-2, wages and tax statement. Now it's asking us to check if the employer was contacted, and the reason why it's doing that is because we're right at 10% with the withholdings. If it was $1,000, that red line goes away. So it's a fail-safe in the system just to make sure that, you know, those wages aren't being overstated. In any case, if it is, you check there, you contact the employer just to make sure that the person works there and put the telephone number there. Scroll a little bit further down this form. The state ID number will be on the W-2. It's not mandatory, however, we're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there just so we can get a red form, and we have it. For your EFIN number, I want you all to use 676424. This form right here is called the 8879. This authorizes us to electronically file for a person. So a person have to file, sign this form before we can actually send it out. Go a little bit further down the form. A PTIN is a number that everyone will need in order to process. Just contact us and we'll tell you what you need to do to get that. The firm name, United Tax Associates. The firm address. And city and state. $88.79 is green. So there's, you know, anywhere from 5 to 1 question on the subsequent forms after you get that main information in that W-2. Now we're at the Georgia Individual Income Tax form. Did your address change since last year's tax return? We're going to hit no there. If it did, you put yes. And I think that's the only thing that we need to do there. Alrighty. We have 2 more forms. This is the Georgia page 3. Georgia 500 page 3. This actually shows us our refund amount, which is $575. Ask the question, do you want to electronically file this return? We're going to say yes. And out of these 3 red boxes, we're going to check the last one. Check here to have the state refund mailed to you. This is in the event, and when you're doing an e-file, the client have to pay you up front, because there's no way that we can receive our fees out of the return for an e-file. With a bank product, we can receive our fees out of their tax return, and we'll be doing e-file in a couple of returns. And in that case, we would check the first one. However, we will get to that point. Go a little further down on the form. There's nothing else that need to be done there. Georgia 500 page is green. Now our last page here asks a question: were you or your spouse, if married, an inmate in a correctional facility, or did you or your spouse, if married, receive a food stamp allotment? A lot of cases it'll be yes. A lot of people get assistance. A lot of people probably been locked up as well. However, we're going to hit yes in that case. And we have all green forms. See the main information sheet? Now that's green. Now once this is done, our last and final step would be to do a diagnostics. And it's coming up with one error, and that's the EFIN number is not registered. However, other than that, everything else is good to go. So from there, we would save our return. We always want to do that. And then close out the return. Alrighty, that is the completion of our first test problem, which is Don Johnson, and we'll see you at test problem number 2. Thank you for your time.